Hey everybody, welcome to this tutorial or demo on how to create another app using code.org and some of the things that we learned in there. This one is going to be an app that's centered around like a subject of economics. So we'll kind of walk through the app design and then we'll design it out on code.org and then we'll start coding. Um, so we have all the interactions. So let me just go ahead and walk you guys through what a normal interaction on this app looks like. So like I said, it's an economics app, and once you get there, it will have some sort of image. Haven't decided yet just what that is just yet. And then you'll be posed with two options. So you get to choose an account, whether you want to choose a checking account or a stock account. So let's say we pick the checking account. Once we click that button, it will take us over to this um, account screen where it will have a balance of some sort and then an amount. Right now, just put X's there just to say that there's numbers there. Um, and what you can do on this page is you can type in a number, whatever that number is, and then go ahead and click deposit. And once we click deposit, it's going to cause some sort of change in this balance. Same thing with withdraw. Um, Once you enter some sort of amount and click withdraw, it's going to cause some sort of change in the balance, usually a minus of some sort. And same thing with deposit, we're adding to the balance. And when we click withdraw, we're deducting from the balance. Um, all right, and so there's a possibility there that that you try to withdraw more than the amount that you have. So your withdrawal amount is greater than your balance. So in that case, I'll have something print out right here. Like we'll have a little snippet right there that says, hey, you're trying to withdraw more money than you have, try again with a smaller amount. And that's pretty much it for this checking account screen. And so once we click this back button right here, it will take us back to our main page, our main landing page. And then we have another option which takes us to the stock screen. So once we click that stock button, we'll go ahead and be taken over to our stock screen. And this is pretty much just a watch list for your top three stocks that you're taking a look at. So in this case, I have Apple, Google, and Amazon. And the stock values for each of them, obviously these will be replaced by um, a number, whatever that number is. And right now I'm thinking that we're going to use random numbers for these. Let's say a random number anywhere between like 0 and 1,000. Um, so all of these numbers right here will be a random number between 0 and 1,000. And we kind of know how to do that based on some of the examples that we see in code.org. What another option that we have is, let's say we you want to change the stocks on your watch list. So you can only have three stocks on there, but let's say we wanted to add another one. Um, let's say we wanted to add Boeing. Um, so we could just, I believe Boeing is BA. If it isn't, it doesn't really matter, but let's say you type that in and then you click add. What this should do is it should add Boeing. Um, let's say it should add Boeing to the top of your list. Um, it should replace. It should just shift down all of these. And we're going to do this using a list, and you'll see how we do that once we get into the implementation. So we'll shift it down. So Apple will now be 2 and Google will now be 3 instead of Amazon. So you'll notice that Amazon is no longer on our stock list. So what it'll do is it will add Boeing to the top and then remove your last one. So yeah, we can do that. Once we click add, another thing that we can do, since stocks, you kind of want to know the price at a certain amount of time. We can always click this refresh button. And what this refresh button is going to do is it's going to keep these stock names the same, the price, the names of the companies the same, but it's going to change these values right here, all three of these. It's going to just refresh them with a random number like we were talking about earlier. Um, But yeah, that's the main design for that. And if we click this back button, we'll come back to the we'll come back to the main screen, and then we can go back to checking if we need to, or some other sort of thing. So here I'll go ahead and stop sharing on here, and then go ahead and share my screen on code.org, and we can kind of pick it up there with the coding. So I'll go ahead and do that. Um, Hope you guys can see my screen now on there. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do on here is we're going to go ahead and go to the app lab like we normally do when we need to create an application. Um, so we'll go ahead and name this we'll rename it to, let's say, economics app. Economics app. And then we'll go ahead and head over to the design to create our design. So we're going to need 3 screens. The first one we'll call main screen. And I'm just going to go through this part relatively quickly. I'm not going to explain too much of it because this is a lot of unit 2 and 3 stuff. By now we should have a good understanding of that stuff. So I want to focus a lot more on the unit 5 stuff that we're currently working on. So we'll change the background color to, let's say, green. Yeah, it looks good. That's the main screen. And on here, we'll have a label that says, and this is the welcome label, and the text is economics. We'll change the text color to maybe a really light green. Yep, that looks good. And we'll change the font size to, let's say, 30. That should be big enough, and then we'll make sure that it's spread out enough to where it's on the same thing. And then make sure we change the text alignment to center so it looks good. Yeah, that looks center enough. Next thing we need is an image. So we'll go ahead and put down something right here. And we'll call this the welcome image. Nothing particular there. And I'll just choose a random image that I have. So I'll upload a file. And let's see, this is one that I downloaded earlier. So I'll go ahead and use this. I'll choose it. Now that's been replaced, I'll make it a little bit bigger and kind of center it as much as I possibly can. And then we need to have something for the user, let's say a label that tells them to choose an account. So this is the choose label. Choose an account from below. And that text size is probably good. Maybe we can raise it to, and then let's change it so it's a color that you can see on that dark green. Yeah, that looks good. So we'll go ahead and put this right here, maybe stretch it out. Not that. Stretch out this if we can. Possibly to where it's on the same screen. There we go. Choose an account from below, and then we'll have 2 buttons. We'll create the first one. We'll call it the checking button, and the text will just be checking. We'll change the color to be something like, let's say, let's go with maybe, yeah, dark blue for right now. Yeah, we can leave that there. That looks fine, just the way it is. I'll copy and paste just so we have the same type. And I'll just throw this one right here. That looks good. And this is going to be the stock button. And we can just call this stock. The rest of that looks good. Maybe we can move this in a little bit. That's about it. Okay, so that's our main screen. We're not going to spend too much time on it. We're just going to go over to our new screen. We're going to create a new screen, and we're going to call this screen the checking screen. And maybe let's say we'll do blue. All right, blue for our checking screen. The first thing that we're going to have on there is our balance. So balance variable. It's just going to say balance, all caps, and then a colon pointing towards that balance. Let's do maybe dark blue. Yeah, that should be good enough for now. Increase the font size, let's say 30 again. Let's see. Maybe we can bring it down a little bit. Maybe, yeah, 25 seems good. So we'll keep that there. That's our balance. We'll create an, actually we just copy this one and create an actual balance variable. So amount label. And this is going to right now, it's going to start off with just whatever that is. It's just going to start with some basic color, and then we'll make sure that it looks a little bit different. So we'll do green. All right, and we'll keep that right there. And it's not going to be perfectly lined up, but we'll make sure that it's as possible as we can get it to be. We'll scoot over. All right, so we'll leave it that there. All right, and then what we'll do next is we need to create 2 text inputs. All right, and the first one is going to be deposit input. Enter deposit amount. We're not going to do a whole lot with that. We'll just keep that right there. And we'll do, we'll create another one. And this one, we'll call this the withdrawal input, just like we called the other one, and we'll call this enter. That's weird. Let me get rid of that. Let me try again with this one. That is weird. Why don't I just go ahead and put in another one? And we'll call this the withdrawal input, and enter withdrawal amount will be our placeholder like we have with the other one. Kind of try to line it up as much as we can, and then make it shorter if need be, and make this one. And then what we need is 2 buttons, one for the deposit and one for the withdrawal. So we'll call this the deposit button. And with the deposit, maybe we'll change the background color to say something like, to be something like, I feel like we haven't used pink yet, so we'll use pink and kind of line that up. We'll have another, we'll copy and paste that just so we have another one just like it for the withdrawal, and we'll call this the withdrawal button. And we'll just write withdraw. That's pretty much all we had on this page, I believe. We'll have a label here for right now. And that's just like we'll call this the warning label, and that, remember, is just whenever you click the withdrawal button, if that withdrawal amount is greater than your balance, we need to let the user know. Right now, we'll keep it blank. We don't want anything in there, but in the situation that you do over withdraw, we'll need to have that actually say something. So we'll keep that there. We'll make sure that the text color is red when it does come up, and font size should be good for right now. The last thing that we need is a button to return back to the main screen. So we'll just call this the back button 1. And the reason we call it the back button 1 is that we'll have another one, and we'll just call that one back button 2. And this is just going to say back. And we can maybe just change the color to, yeah, we haven't used orange yet, so we'll use that. And we need to create one more screen. Let's see. So let's go ahead and create that new screen. And this, remember, is going to be the stock screen. This one's a little bit more involved, so we'll go ahead and change the background color, let's say to, yeah, that yellow looks good. And then first thing we're going to do is we'll just add a label to the top that says the stock welcome label. And this is just going to be over the top. It's going to be our stock watch list, just to let the user know what they've come across. I like the font. I like the font color just the way it is. We'll change this to 30 if we can, and then hopefully stretch it out to where it just fits on one line. Perfect. And then just center it. All right. And on here now, we're gonna have, let's see, we're gonna have 3 stocks. So I'm gonna go ahead and do, I'm gonna do stock 1 name label, stock 1 name label. And this is just gonna have one dot stock 1. Actually, maybe we can change this to say, we'll just have default values initially. So I'll have Apple. Yeah, we can change the text color to maybe blue seems good, bright blue. And the font size will make it a little bit bigger, but let's say 20. Yeah, that looks good. And then we'll do this 2 more times. So we'll have 2 more of these. We'll kind of separate them out a little bit. That's weird. Let me drag this back here and just go ahead and copy one more. All right, so we're gonna make this stock 2 name label, and we're gonna make this, let's do 2 and Google. And then we'll make this stock 3 name label. And we'll change this to 3 dot as our starting. So these are just default values, which we can change once we do the add. One thing that we need to get right is another label that is the stock 1 price. And then we can just do, let's say 40 All right, so we'll keep that there and then we'll change some things around, maybe change the font color back to that blue and then increase it to 20 also. And we'll put this right here. We'll go ahead and copy. Actually, we can change the font color so it looks a little bit different. So yeah, we'll make it like that. All right, so once we have that, I'm gonna go ahead and copy. Oh, stock screen. Oh, it looks like I created a different screen. I'm gonna go ahead and delete the screen that I created. But I'm gonna head back to our stock screen. I'm gonna copy our label, make one more and two more, just for the other stocks. All right, for now, that should be good enough for now. This just might need to be moved up a little. Okay. Yeah, just try your best to even those out. I know it's kind of hard to see. So we're gonna call this stock 2 price and stock 3 price. All right, and what we need to do next is go ahead and create that add button that we were talking about. So we'll go ahead and click, or we'll start with the text input for the ad. So this is add stock input, and placeholder is just going to be enter stock. And we'll just put that right there. And then add a button to, it's going to be the add stock button. And it's just going to say add. We'll change it, the color to maybe, yeah, pink again, add stock, and let's see. And the last thing that we needed to do on here was the refresh button. So I'll go ahead and create a refresh button. Let's see, let me click on that and we'll call this the refresh button. And it'll just say refresh, and this is just to refresh our stock prices. And then we'll change the color to yellow. Oh, it's already yellow, so maybe orange. All right, and the last thing that we need to do is get that back button. So we'll go ahead and copy. I'll head back to our stock screen and then just, all right, that should be good. And I'm going to change that refresh button just so they're not the same color to maybe, yeah, we'll do green. All right, that's pretty much it for our screens. They all look good so far. So let's go ahead over to our code and start adding some things in there. So the first thing that I always like to do is make sure all of our buttons are accounted for. So we'll go ahead and add on events for our buttons. So in the case of, let's say our checking button and our stock button, we'll go ahead, what we want it to do. So this checking button, when it's clicked, we need to set the screen to be the checking screen. And for this one, we need to set this screen to the stock screen. All right, so that's the buttons on the first page. Let's go to the second page. We need to create an on event for, we have 3 buttons here, the deposit, withdraw, and back. So let's create on events for those 3. All right, and select their corresponding labels. So for the deposit, we'll go ahead and find the deposit button. For the withdrawal button, we'll go ahead and find the withdrawal button. And for the back button, we'll go ahead and do back button 1. And that reminds me that I didn't name our back button on the last page, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this is going to be back. Remember, we used back button 1 for the other one. So back button 1. And then the last thing that we'll need to do is our stock screen. So let's add, there's 3 buttons. We need to add 3 on events. And before I get to that, actually, just want to go back to our checking screen. So we don't have anything to do just yet when we do the deposit or the withdrawal, but we do have something that we can do when we do the back button, and that is set the screen to the main screen. So we're going to set the screen to the main screen, and then we can go back to our stock screen. All right, so we'll have the add stock button, the refresh button, there we go, and the back button 2. Perfect. And the back button 2 is going to set our screen to the main screen. It's going to take us back to that main screen. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just head back to our main screen and run the program real quick. What if we click checking? It takes us to our checking page. If we click stock, it takes us to our stock page and back. Okay, so all of those buttons are working great. I'll go and reset. Now we need to, let's head over to our checking screen. Our checking screen, and let's implement that. Let's implement that deposit. So before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and create a variable for our balance. We're going to call this balance, and let's say our balance starts with $1,000. And so when we click the deposit button, we want to create a variable that holds, we'll call this the deposit amount. Let's see, and then we go to UI controls and we'll get what that number is. So we'll use get number from the, we called it the deposit input, I believe. Deposit input. And then what we'll do is we'll go back to variables, and then we'll do x equals, so x is going to be the balance. The balance equals the math we'll do, it's going to be the balance plus the deposit amount. And notice why this is. And this is because when you make a deposit, you're adding to your balance. So it's going to be whatever the balance was now plus whatever the deposit amount that we get from the deposit input is. And then what we need to do here is we need to call a function. We need to call a function called the, we're going to call this, just to keep it consistent with whatever we're doing in code.org, we're going to call this the update. We're going to call this the update check-in screen. All right, we'll call this the update checking screen. And all that's going to do is just update this balance. All right, so what I'll do is I'll call this function, or I'll actually have to create the function down here. Yeah, I'll create the function call, and we'll call it update checking screen like we did up there. And what this is going to do, it's going to set this balance amount label. So we'll go over set text, and we'll do balance amount label. We'll change that to the new balance. And there's a good way to do this. So let me head to math, and this is just going to be $ plus whatever that amount is. So it's going to be balance. Yeah, and then one thing that we can do is we want to set the text for the other two. We just want to empty out this deposit amount and withdrawal amount. So we'll change that to set deposit amount, or I think it's deposit input and withdrawal input. And we'll just set the text to nothing. We just want to clear out whatever was in there. So let's go ahead and just test out the functionality so far. And one more thing that I want to do is whenever we click the checking button, when we set the screen, let's just go ahead and call that function to update checking screen. That's just so whenever we do enter that, oh, I guess I put it in the wrong one. Let me go ahead and drag it up to the right one, to the checking button. So whenever we click the checking button screen, the checking account, whenever we click that from the main screen, also update that screen to make it more consistent. So I'll go ahead and run it just to check it out. So we'll click checking. Looks like that balance isn't showing up, but we'll go ahead and try it out. 500 deposit. Okay, so notice that the balance doesn't change, and I think that's because this balance amount isn't correct. So let me go into show text and see why that isn't right. Maybe we can just do it this way, where maybe we just have it as balance. And what we'll do is that we'll have it as balance. So it's just going to be updating the balance, but this will change the reset. We'll change it so that on our checking screen, this right here only has the amount, so the XXX, and balance actually will have the $. And so we'll move this over just a little bit to accommodate for that. All right, that should be good now. Let me go back to our main screen and run it. So we'll go checking. You'll notice that our balance is there, and we want to add $500 to it. So we deposit it, that updates, and notice how it says 150, and that's because our balance gets cut off at the end. So we'll go into design and make sure that the text box is big enough. So I'll go ahead and drag this out. All right, let me try that one more time. Go to our main screen, run it, checking takes us there. Now the full amount is there, 1,000. Let's say we deposit $65. Deposit clears it out, and then the balance is there, 1,065. All right. Now we just need to do the withdrawal on the same screen. So we can kind of model it the same way. Let's see. Okay. So we'll have var, we'll have a variable to hold the withdrawal amount, and we'll get the number from the withdrawal input, just like we have up here. But the one thing that we need to do different with withdrawal is we need to check if the withdrawal amount is greater than is greater than the balance that we have. And if it is, if the withdrawal amount is greater than the balance, we have to print that error message. Reset, we'll head to our checking screen just so warning label is what it's called. If it is greater, let's see, we have to set text of that. We have to set the text of that warning label. Oh, sorry, the warning label, and we'll set it to the amount you have chosen to withdraw exceeds your balance. The amount you have chosen to withdraw exceeds your balance. Please try again. Perfect. So we'll keep that. And if it doesn't do that, we'll go ahead and we'll create a function called update, or we already have a function called update checking screen. So we'll go ahead and call that update checking screen function. Update checking screen. But before we update the checking screen, make sure that we are updating that balance. So balance is now equal to balance minus, not plus, since we're making withdrawal, balance minus withdrawal amount. And one thing that will change on here is that we'll add set text for the warning label as empty as well. Let's see. Ooh. That's weird. I guess I can just type it out. Warning label. We're going to set the text as empty. All right, let's go ahead and try that out. I'll go ahead and run checking. Let's say we want to deposit $500. It empties all of these out. The balance changes. Let's say we want to withdraw $1,000. It should be 500 now, which it is. But let's say we wanted to do 600, which is greater than our balance. It should print out the amount you have chosen to withdraw exceeds your balance. And then try again should be there. I'm going to go ahead and make that a little bit bigger so all of the text is there. But let's say we actually chose to only withdraw 60. It should withdraw 60, so we'll bring it down to 440, but it should also get rid of this label. Perfect. 440, and it got rid of the label. I'm just going to go ahead and make that on the checking screen, that warning label. I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger so all of the text shows up. All right, perfect. All right, so we can head back to the code. That is actually it for the checking screen. Let's head to the stock screen. This is where it's going to get a little bit more complicated. All right, so what we'll have here is, let's see, we'll have to use a list for this, a list to hold our 3 stocks. So let's go ahead and grab a list to do that. So I'm going to go ahead, create a list, and we'll put it up here. So this list we'll call our stock list. It's going to start out with Apple, Google, and Amazon. And those are our default values that we start off with. All right, and we'll leave that there. So let's talk about what happens when we click the Add Stock button. So what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and insert the item. And remember, we want to insert it into our name, the name for our list, which is stock list. The index that we want to insert it into is, the index that we want to insert it into is 0, because we want to insert it at the top of the list. And the name that we're actually just going to go ahead and get the name from, we're going to do get text. Get text. Oh, did I put in the wrong one? Yes, I did. All right. It might be easier just to create a variable for it then. So variable, add stock name, add stock name, and then we'll get the text. It's always easier to understand if we use variables directly instead of going through and putting the getting text. So add stock name, we'll get the text from, this is called add stock input. Hopefully, yep, add stock input, and then the variable will now be add stock name. There we go, name. Perfect. So we're adding to index 1. Remember, lists start indexing at 0. So the first position is actually index 0. Second position is actually index 1, and so on. So at position 0, or the first position in the list, we're going to put the add stock name, which is what we get from here. And from there, we'll call our, we'll create a function to call, and it's going to be called update stock screen, just like we had one for update checking screen. So I'll go ahead and create a function for that. We'll call it update stock screen. Update stock screen. All right. Let me go ahead and we'll go ahead and refresh those. We'll make sure that each of those is the right thing that it needs to be. So instead of having numbers, I think we might be able to do it a lot easier without numbers. So I'm going to go through each of these and just remove the 1 and the 2 and the 3. And you'll see why that is in just a sec. All right, we'll leave that just the way it is. Head back to the code. Update stock screen. We're going to go ahead and update the values of these. So we're going to use set text. We're going to need 3 of those. Set text. And the last thing that we needed to do is whenever we insert the item, wherever we insert an item, we also need to remove the last item. So we'll do remove item from stock list. And we're going to remove the last item, which is going to be index. So this is index 1, 0, or index 0, index 1, index 2. So we're going to be removing index 2. Or whenever we do add it, it's going to be index 3, because this one will be the new one, this one will be Apple, this one will be Google, and then we're going to remove Amazon, which is going to be index 3. All right, so we can insert, and then we need to remove the last one, which is 3. We need to set the text for stock 1 name label, and then stock 2 name label, and stock 3 name label. And we're going to replace these with the actual names. So list is going to be stock list 0. This is going to be stock list 1. And this is going to be stock list 1. And this is going to be stock list 2. All right, so we'll update those. And let's just check if this works. All right, so I'll go ahead and run. We'll go to our stock screen and let's say we wanted to add Boeing. So when we click add, it'll change all of these. It'll make this first one Boeing. It'll make the second one. It'll just move the other two down, Apple and Google, and you'll notice Amazon is no longer on the list. All right, let's go and reset, head back to our stock screen, and we'll go ahead and leave that for right now. All right, that's all we need to do here. Add stock button. Now we have a refresh button, and what that does is refreshes the prices of all three of those. So I guess the easiest way we can do this is, yeah, okay, let's head back here. I'm just gonna make a copy of all of these. And you'll see why in just a sec. So I'll make a copy and put it right here. And this one is just gonna have the $sign. So we're gonna remove the $sign from here. So 40 is the price. And we'll make sure that it can go a little bit longer. Actually, I'm just gonna go ahead and get rid of these and I'll rename it. So I'll drag these off. So we have two labels actually, one to hold the $sign and one to hold the stock one price. And so we'll do the same thing for all three of these. So I'm going to copy and paste $3 signs. And okay, hopefully those line up. And then I'm going to create labels for the other ones. Copy and paste. And copy and paste. Oops, created a new screen. Let's go ahead and delete that new screen and head back to our stock screen. Just wanted to copy the label, not the whole screen. All right, so we'll leave that there. Cool. And so these are going to be, this is going to be stock one price. This is going to be stock two price. And that's why it's important to always label your, or ID your labels and things like that, because this said label 22. And I bet you by the time that we're actually doing all of this, we're not going to remember what label 22 or 32 is. So we're going to call this stock 3 price. All right, stock 3 price, stock 2 price, stock 1 price. All right, and the $signs to go along with all of these. All right, so leave that there. So whenever we go back to code, that refresh button is actually going to be, let's set, let's see, refresh button is, yeah, maybe we can just use the refresh button to, let's see, refresh button. We'll just, we can use a loop on this one to go through our, variables. So we'll create, we can use a for loop since we know how many we'll be updating. So variable I equals 0. And since we only want it to go 3 times, we want it to be less than 3. So we'll do 0, increment it to 1, and then increment it to 2. And then once it increments it to 3, it doesn't run because 3 is not less than 3. So it'll run 3 times exactly. And let's see, we're going to need to set the text of, we'll call this, remember this is stock 1 price. So we can actually just go ahead and do, we can get rid of this. Plus I, which is the variable, plus It's gonna go ahead and correct it to, see if I can change that to just say I. All right, stock plus I plus price. And notice how we don't have one called stock zero price. So we're just gonna change this to one. So it'll be stock one price and then stock two price and stock three price. But remember, this only goes up to three. So we're gonna make this go up to four. Or another way we can actually do that is just put the less than or equal to instead here. So let me go ahead and grab this one out and put the less than or equal to right here. So I is less than or equal to 3. This way it will go all the way up to 3. So it will do stock 1 price, stock 2 price, and stock 3 price because 3 is less than that. Not sure why that keeps correcting to capital I. I'm going to go ahead and change it to I. And then go back to show blocks. All right, so we'll do that. And it sets that to, so it gets the label that we're actually changing, the stock 1 price, stock 2 price, or stock 3 price. But we need to go into math and set a random function to actually set the number. So we'll say anywhere between, let's say the price is anywhere between $10 and $1,000 as the price, a random number. And this happens when we click the refresh button, and it does it 3 times for all of these labels right here: stock 1 price, stock 2 price, and stock 3 price. And then we'll go ahead and, yeah, I think that should be good. Let's go ahead and run it and just test it out. We'll go to the stock screen. So all of these are there. We click refresh, refresh, refresh. Notice how all 3 of those are changing. Perfect, and let's add a stock. Let's say we added Boeing. We'll add it. Those change on this left, and then we'll keep refreshing, refreshing, and refreshing. Those will always keep changing. All right. Believe that might actually be it for this one. So let's go ahead and go through this one more time from the top, just the code, so we make sure we understand it. And then we'll do one final walkthrough of the app itself. So I'll reset, but we start off with a balance of 1,000 and a stock list with default apps of Apple, Google, and Amazon. In the event that so I'm going to go through this code on line 3. I'm just going to kind of read it like we would with English. So in the event that you click the checking button, you set the screen to the checking screen, and then you call the update checking screen function. And the same thing, I guess we can add to right here for our stock button. We'll go ahead and call the update stock screen. Update stock screen. And I guess we can, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and copy our, here's what we can do. I think that's a great idea, actually. Let's go ahead and create, I guess we did miss one thing, or we can make it better in one way. I'm going to create a function called refresh stocks. Refresh stocks, and I'm going to go ahead and just drag this for loop that we created into there so we can separate it. And we'll just call the function refresh stocks in here. And then we'll also call the function refresh stocks in the update stock screen function. And the reason that we do this is that otherwise, the reason that we create a function is otherwise we'd have this same for loop in the same place. So we'll have it here, and we'll also have it in the refresh button. So whenever we have repeated code, we always want to use a function for it. So we created the refresh stocks function for that. All right, so we'll head back. When we click the stock button, it's going to set the screen to the stock screen and then update the stock screen. All right, now let's head over to the checking screen. In the event that you click the deposit button, it will get the amount that you entered in the deposit amount. it will update the balance. So it'll add whatever the deposit amount that you entered was to the balance, and then I'll click the update checking screen button. And what the update checking screen button does is that it will get the balance amount and set that to the balance, and then get rid of all of these labels or inputs and just clear out the inputs on them. So if you had entered 500 here and press deposit, it will update the balance to add 500 to it, and then it will also clear out the number that was in here, which is 500. And that's what the update screen checking screen function does. Almost the same thing with the withdrawal button. You'll create a variable called withdrawal amount that gets the input from the user, gets the number. And if the withdrawal amount is greater than the balance, which means you're trying to get more money than you actually have in your account, it'll go ahead and print out that warning label that says, the amount you have chosen to withdraw exceeds your balance, please try again. So it'll put that warning label right there. But if your withdrawal amount is less than your balance, or the else condition is that we'll actually withdraw the amount. So balance equals balance minus withdrawal amount. And then we'll update the checking screen, which, like we just talked about, the update checking screen just updates the balance amount after the new value has been calculated and clears out all of the inputs. All right. So, and then the back button just takes you back to the main screen. All right, and then we can talk about the stock screen real quick. The add stock button right here gets the name of the stock that you had, gets the name of the stock that you wanted to enter. It inserts that stock into our stock list from above at the position 0, meaning it adds it to the top of the list because the lists start indexing at 0. And then it removes the last item in the list, which is 3, index 3. And then it calls this update stock screen function. So we'll take a look at that. The update stock screen function just sets each of these labels. So the stock 1 name label, stock 2, and stock 3 name label, and sets it equal to the actual variables or actual values that are inside of the list. So stock list 0 is going to be the first one in the list, stock list 1 is the second, and stock list 3 is the third stock in the list, and sets those actually to what they are. So that's good. And then it refreshes the stocks. It calls that function refresh stocks. And what that does is that there's a for loop that goes through and updates all of these prices using the label name, which is stock 1 or stock 2 or stock 3, using these conditions right here, and price, that's the name of the label. And then it sets it as a random number between 10 and 1,000. That's what refresh stocks does. And the refresh button does the same exact thing. It just calls that refresh stocks function. The back button just takes you back to the main screen. But yeah, that's pretty much the code. Let me go ahead and run this one more time. Let's say we're at the main screen. We want to click the checking account. We start with the balance of 1,000. Let's say we deposit 2,000. So we'll have 3,000 as our balance, and you'll notice that it changes to 3,000. Let's say we want to withdraw 1,500. It should change the balance to 1,500. Let's say we want to withdraw 5,000 now, which is greater than our balance. So it shouldn't let us, it should print out an error, and it does print out that error message. And now let's say we want to withdraw only 500 and not 5,000. We withdraw, that should be 1,000. That looks great. We'll click the back button. We'll go to the stock screen. So this is our stock watch list, and notice how there's our initial values, our default stocks, and random numbers for all of them. So let's say we wanted to add the stock Boeing. We'll add it to the list. It should add to the top of the list and shift everything down. Amazon should be removed. So Boeing, Apple, Google shifted everything down. They have different values now. And just to keep those values refreshed, we can refresh, and you notice that all 3 of those change to random numbers between 10 and 1,000. And then we click the back button and we're back at the main screen. But that's pretty much the app. I'll go ahead, along with this video, I'll go ahead and publish a lesson plan with written directions on how to do this. But thank you so much for watching, and good luck implementing this in your classroom.